rounding third with home plate in sight. But even the best players need a coach to wave them in. Safe! Welcome to Perfect Game Retirement, hosted by Ryan Ledden, former pro baseball player, University of Georgia economics graduate, and now certified financial planner with Black Oak Asset Management. He's here to guide you through the final stretch and help you slide safely into a winning retirement. Play ball!
Hello, welcome in. This is Perfect Game Retirement. Glad to have you on the show this week with Ryan Ledden. As always, he is president and financial coach at Black Oak Asset Management, also a certified financial planner, which is why you'll want to tune in today because we're talking about the market, talking about opportunities that actually exist in a crisis, as some people feel like it might be right now. We'll talk about that, which is obviously an important topic. We'll also talk about some problem solving because Ryan's job goes well beyond just investing in what's happening in the markets. There's so many problems that need to be solved for individuals as they prepare for retirement, and we'll talk about some of those today. But first, we got to welcome you in. Ryan, how are you?
Yeah, doing good. Doing well, man. It's Bravo's getting a little bit better. They're winning a few more ball games, so that's good. We can't win it in April, but we can lose it in April.
That's true. It's true. You don't want to be out of the race this early for sure. And they got a good team, so I expect them to bounce back. But I'm surprised you have a lot of time to keep up with it, considering how much you have going on with your son playing baseball right now and your daughter playing softball.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, sometimes we catch like the 8th and 9th inning after we get home from practice, and that's really about it. But occasionally we'll have a night off, but man, it is few and far between. And everybody says you're gonna miss it when you don't have that, and I do. I love it. I don't mind going to the ball field every night because that's what I did as a kid, and so we got pretty much practice rotations. Both of my kids don't have practice every night, but it does rotate where it does seem like it.
Yeah, we got to give your daughter a little love too, right? Some big news this week for Lindy.
Yeah, I was proud of her. She went to a trial. So she made a USA All-American team last year. So she competed in Oklahoma at the USA softball headquarters. So that was a really cool event. But then she went to another one about a month ago, I would say, and it's called High Performance Program. So it's put in by USA Softball. So it's HPP for short. And if you go to this tryout and you get selected, then you go compete in a giant tryout in December. Probably going to be in Florida. It's mainly in Florida because obviously December, it's going to be a cold time of year everywhere else. So we go to a warm climate and usually it's Florida. But yeah, she goes down there and has like a 3-day tryout, if you will. And it's to try to make the national team, the under 15 national team. So with probably 200 kids or so per age group. So it's highly, highly competitive, but just to be invited to that, to have a chance of making the national team, and you really go internationally all over the place to play. So, if she makes it, I mean, that would be just unbelievable, but even just making this tryout and getting invited to it was a really cool thing. So I was super proud of her for that.
That's awesome, man. I know we spent time, on the podcast talking about your son and a lot of his accolades so far, but it's cool to see how much your daughter's developing right now. And I don't know how you're going to balance traveling to follow them both play, but good luck to you over the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, my son does get a lot of the notoriety, if you will, and she handles it really well. Some kids would have a lot of animosity and jealousy, but she handles it really, really well. So I'm proud of her for that. But yeah, he gets a lot of notoriety, but she's kind of trying to make a name for herself, I guess.
I love it. Well, very good to hear. But let's jump into what we're talking about today, because I know a lot of people are tuning in, wondering about what's happening in the markets. There's a lot of concern. There's a little bit of bounce back this week, but it's just been so up and down, more down than up. And I know a lot of people are just concerned about what's happening. But there are opportunities that exist, right, Ryan? I mean, I think a lot of times when you have a plan, you can shift that mindset and from worrying to, okay, what can I do now to take advantage of what's happening?
Yeah, 100%. I've listened to this podcast called The Good Life by Brian Buffini, and he was talking about this. So many people are moved or make decisions based off of fear. They don't look for the opportunity. So when fear takes over, then usually we make maybe not the best decisions that we should make, as opposed to looking at completely different as an opportunity. And there are tons of opportunities right now. So I get everybody's in a different stage of life and savings and retirement and accumulation versus decumulation, but there's always opportunity, and you have to be willing to take advantage for those opportunities in a calculated basis. Obviously, we don't want to, just bet on one thing and then and let it fly during an opportunity and put it on one stock or whatever it may be. But there's definitely opportunities right now.
I love that. Well, we're going to go through this today. I always want to remind you, check out retireperfect.com. It's the easiest way to schedule a time to meet with Ryan, and we encourage you to do that. If you have questions about your investments and questions about where you're headed with your retirement plan or your financial plan, retireperfect.com is the best place to start. You can schedule that consultation, that free meeting, to sit down with Ryan and begin talking about some of these concerns, what you're worried about, and help you start putting that next foot forward towards that financial success that you hope to have. So again, retireperfect.com. All right, we got 4 to share with you today, 4 opportunities. Let's start with this kind of counterintuitive approach, Ryan. I know a lot of people think about, okay, I want to take my money off the table because the market's struggling right now, but you should really be thinking about maybe increasing your savings rate, right? What are the circumstances where you'd recommend someone doing that?
Yeah, it's you want to put more money in, and I've had clients say, "Oh, I lowered my savings rate right now," and I just want to cringe, "Oh, no, don't." Bare minimum, keep it the same, and don't do it. Now, if you need to do it for other reasons, fine, but don't do it because of the uncertainty of the market. You almost want to increase your 401k contributions or whatever you're putting into your investment accounts. That's what you want to do. You want to buy low and sell high. And most people, by doing that, by lowering your savings rate during volatility, you're kind of doing the opposite of that. So I would say increase your savings rate. Again, kudos to a lot of people that we work with. They did put more money in as the markets have been going sideways and up and down, and you name it, they've gone in many different directions. But yeah, increase that savings rate. Take advantage of this volatility. Volatility can be your friend or it can be your enemy, but use it, make it your friend.
Yeah, make it your friend. Take advantage. I know it's tough to think about that, but that is a great opportunity potentially for you to take advantage and be in a stronger spot when things begin to rebound. Roth conversions, Ryan, another opportunity here. This is one that, I think people think about and you probably discuss with your clients throughout the year, every year, but why might a down market be a good reason why someone should be considering a Roth conversion?
Yeah, this is a great point because you can't time the market. It is impossible to time the market because we have seen markets move just by tweets that are put out there, and who knows the timing of when that's going to happen. But in general, while the market is down, that's a great time to do Roth conversions because you're not taking money out of the market. You're just sliding it from a pre-tax account to a post-tax account. So when you're doing that, you're obviously paying the tax on it. And I would recommend, now this isn't specific advice, but you get more bang for your buck, if you will, if you pay the tax out of your own kind of back pocket, if you will, not with the money that's being moved over, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So if you want to move 50 grand from a pre-tax IRA over to a Roth, move all 50 grand and then pay the tax next April. But by doing that again, the market may continue to go down after you do it. Again, we don't know the timing of it, but if it's down compared to what it was maybe earlier in the year, well, you are moving that $50,000 maybe at a discount. Well, you at least know some sort of a discount, but it could potentially go down lower. But you move that $50,000 over to a Roth, and then, hey, maybe the market recovers. Now, boom, that 50 grand starts to grow. And it starts to grow tax-free as long as you, again, leave it in there till the required age and at least have it in there for 5 years with the 5-year rule. But once it's over and that $50,000 grows, then, okay, you kind of benefited from that. So even within the year, if the market is down, that's a good time to do Roth conversions because you get more bang for your buck, and hopefully the market recovers, and then that 50 grand's more once it's in the Roth.
Very good. Well, Roth conversion, again, could be a great opportunity right now. If you want to learn more about it, go ahead and set up a time to talk with Ryan at Black Oak Asset Management. Go to retireperfect.com. Again, retireperfect.com. Set up a time to meet with Ryan. Begin talking about a Roth conversion, other strategies that might be useful right now. I know you might be concerned about the market, but again, opportunities do exist. So go to retireperfect.com. All right, what about getting more aggressive with trades? What might a scenario look like, Ryan, where you'd advise someone to move to a more aggressive position?
Yeah. So as far as, again, we're not day traders. We don't pretend to be, but at the same time, there are opportunities, and we see, a lot of us look at ETFs and mutual funds and indexes and things like that and say, oh, well, the Dow was down this, or the S&P was down this, or the Russell, or whatever you want to look at. But there may be some individual holdings that are down much more than that. And so that's where kind of looking for those trading opportunities more often. So the frequency in which we trade during times of volatility is definitely more because there's rebalancing opportunities. I mean, our trading software looks for opportunities like that, but then there may be one-offs. There may be some individual companies that are getting hit big time. And there's a lot of big giant names out there that are getting hit during this tariff talk. And there may be some buying opportunities. You may not be a big single stock person, but there may be some huge opportunities there. Again, not to buy it and then sell it quickly. We're not looking to do that, but we're looking for big opportunities that some of those individual stocks may be way down more than what the indexes are that they're in. So there's an opportunity there. There's also an opportunity maybe for tax loss harvesting in our non-qualified accounts or our brokerage accounts, where maybe we can sell something off at a loss, get the loss for a tax deduction, and then buy back into the market after the 60-day rule, if you will, to get back in to purchase that same. You can't just sell it and then turn around and buy it 2 days later, the same stock. You're not going to get the tax benefit out of it. But that's a conversation for another day. But that's kind of the opportunities that we look for from just a buying opportunity, but maybe a tax situation that will help you out with your taxes come next year.
All right. Last thing to keep in mind here, maybe this is a wake-up call. Maybe that's the opportunity that exists, where maybe you're at a stage of life where this current market downturn doesn't hurt you potentially, but it should still serve that, hey, I need to be reminded that a plan is important. I need to make sure that, hey, the next crash, I might be closer to retirement. It might matter a little bit more. Let's be prepared.
Yeah, it can be. We've had people call. We've had people set up times for conversations. Even sometimes it's just as much responding to an email when they have a question or needing reassurance. But sometimes it is like, hey, this is a good opportunity to get together again. We reach out to our clients consistently for client reviews, and some people take us up on it. Again, depends on the frequency, depends on how busy they are, but sometimes it is a little bit of a proverbial slap in the face, if you will, to say, okay, maybe we need to come in and just make sure our retirement plan is still successful, put in new numbers and make sure our percentages are still okay. So, which is fine. Once we have that financial plan built in there, making alterations or changes to it are very easy to do. So sometimes it can be a good wake-up call, and a lot of times it's just a reassurance wake-up call, but maybe there needs to be some drastic measures that need to take place. I wouldn't say we fall into that category of making drastic decisions, but sometimes there needs to be pivots, if you will, during these times. But, this short-term volatility, it could continue on. It could. I don't think it's going to be long-lived, but again, that's just my humble opinion on that. I think just wading through this and just sticking it out seems to be the best medicine for situations like this, but definitely a wake-up call for some people just to come in and get reassured of what their plan is.
Well, if that's you, you can go to retireperfect.com right now, schedule a time to meet with Ryan. He is a certified financial planner at Black Oak Asset Management. They have offices in Alpharetta, Macon, Lawrenceville, and he's happy to sit down with you or do it on Zoom as well. Either way, whatever's most comfortable for you, he can make that happen. But Ryan, for those that are using this as a wake-up call, what will that conversation kind of look like for someone that maybe wants to come in because they are worried about their investing?
Yeah, I mean, if it's someone we don't work with, it's just a simple conversation just to hear where people are coming from. Obviously, we get all walks of life and all stages of life of people when it comes to their finances. And that's the fun part of my job, because no one situation is the same. There's a lot of similarities out there, but everyone's unique when it comes to that. So it's just hearing a conversation and hearing where they're coming from, having questions for us. That's fine. We may have some questions for you, but just to see if it's a high level fit, just to have that more in-depth conversation with an in-person meeting or a Zoom call, like you mentioned, because of the city that we live in and the traffic, which I had to go through both rush hours yesterday. Went to a family funeral and went to rush hour on the way down and the way back. So if a Zoom call is better for you and your situation, that's fine. But that's the in-depth in-person meeting or Zoom call where we really figure out, okay, do we want to take step forwards together, or, you can go with somebody else, or if it's not a good fit. But that's kind of what our process looks like for someone who does not work with us.
Well, don't hesitate. Go ahead and book a time. Retireperfect.com. We make it easy for you to do that. And again, you want to be prepared. If the market bounces back quickly, great. But we know that it's going to turn down again, and there will be corrections in the future. So you want to be prepared. Again, retireperfect.com. Investing, though, is not all that Ryan does at Black Oak Asset Management. He is a problem solver. We're going to talk about some of the problems that they face with clients and how they work through those coming up next right here on Perfect Game Retirement.
You're listening to Perfect Game Retirement.
You're listening to Perfect Game Retirement. Glad to have you on the show with Ryan Ledden at Black Oak Asset Management. And we do encourage you to reach out if you have questions, which we have one from Canton, came in from Stan. He says, I have a substantial military retirement that covers all of our income needs, and all of my investments are basically earmarked to be passed down to our 3 daughters. Since I won't need the money, should I just use the money to buy a lot of life insurance so that I don't have to worry about managing it?
That's a great question, Stan. So there's a lot of what ifs there, but it's an intriguing question, because when I mean a lot of what ifs, so some people, there's a lot of people that poo-poo life insurance, because life insurance is not an investment. You can't compare life insurance to your retirement investments. They're two different things. So that's the first thing. But could it be a way to pass on money to the next generation tax-free and very quickly? Yes. So this becomes how are your retirement accounts allocated? Do you have a bunch of Roth money? Do you have a bunch of pre-tax IRA? Do you have brokerage account money? So there's a lot of questions there. I mean, that's super great that you're just going to pass those on to your 3 daughters. So let's first get more tax efficient, and life insurance plays in that, because life insurance is tax-free. So that's awesome. But let's see how you're allocated first from a tax standpoint, Stan. But it could be, if you don't need to take on the risk, then you may not want to. In life insurance, and you're obviously talking about some sort of a whole life type policy, because they're not going to grow quickly. They grow very slowly, if you will. So if you want the cash value to grow quicker, then you don't want a giant death benefit. But if you're looking for a death benefit, let's figure out the lowest amount of premium that goes into that life insurance policy for the maximum death benefit. So what can you, quote unquote, afford to pay? Now, if you're trying to build up the cash value inside of there, then you want to shrink the death benefit as much as possible and stuff as much cash in there. So 2 different completely ways to engineer that. Stan, I'll be happy to talk through that with you. There's a lot more to that discussion there. So great question. And it does, I hate to not completely answer it, because it does depend, but there are some pros and cons to having life insurance in this scenario versus keeping it invested. But would love to hear more, Stan. And it is an option, but it just depends on how you're allocated now from a tax standpoint with your investments.
Great question, Stan. Hopefully that helps you out. Again, you can follow up by going to retireperfect.com. And this is a great example of how specific scenarios can be addressed by a financial planner, a certified financial planner like Ryan Ledden at Black Oak Asset Management. So go to retireperfect.com to schedule a time to meet, discuss whatever is on your mind, whatever specific scenario that you have. All right, we have more coming up right here on Perfect Game Retirement with Ryan Ledden, so stay tuned.
The bases are loaded and your financial future is on deck. Are you ready? This is Perfect Game Retirement.
Welcome back into Perfect Game Retirement. We're going to talk about the problems that get solved by Black Oak Asset Management. They're all very specific to what your unique needs are. That's the beauty of customized planning, of course. But before we do that, Ryan, I want to remind people, you can go to retireperfect.com right now, retireperfect.com, and take advantage. Ryan has spent some time putting together a new book, Diffuse the Retirement Threats, not AI generated, Ryan. This is work that you put in and the time you put in yourself. And this is something a lot of people can get value out of, right?
Yeah, so we're proud of it. It's kind of a good lead into our next segment about problem solving, but the book is laid out in obviously chapter form, but it goes through different threats that could hurt your retirement, whether that's taxes, inflation, healthcare, whatever it may be. And it gives a kind of step-by-step process and kind of how-tos at the very end of each chapter. So we're proud of it. I know it's a financial book, so sometimes it can get for some people can get boring, if you will. But I think we tie in enough stories and steps on things to do that it keeps people turning the pages, if you will. So it's about 100 pages or so. So not too thick, but also not, like a kid's book at the same time. But it does give a lot of advice and help within that book. And then if you want to expand upon that, then again, we can have a conversation after you get the book and all the free materials that we do have. So yeah, please feel free to request one and we'll send it out to you free of charge.
You'll find that at retireperfect.com. You'll see the book and retirement toolkit that you can go ahead and submit a claim for. And again, we appreciate you listening, and that's why we do it. It's all about education right here on Perfect Game Retirement, and this is just another piece of that puzzle. All right, so we talked problem solving. Let's get into that, Ryan, because I know a lot of people think, okay, you're an advisor, you help me pick my investments. But I know we've talked a lot about this. You do so much more. That's only a very small part of what you do from the planning perspective. And the reality is you are a problem solver. So we have 4 problems that we want to kind of bring up today and discuss. There's so many more that we could have gone through, but we narrowed down to these 4. Let's start with someone that comes in with a tax-related problem. This is not uncommon at all, obviously, and taxes are a big part of what you do. So how do you help someone that comes in with this situation?
Yeah, and it could be a current year tax problem, or it could be a long-term tax problem. So we do tax planning here, and we even partner with a firm to do tax preparation at the same time. So it's a big part of what we do. I think that's sometimes the missing link to a lot of financial planners out there. I mean, sure, there's tax conversations, but to really drill down, hey, what's the best thing to do now? But is it the best thing to do down the road? So a lot of people have tax problems, especially our older clients who may not have had access to Roth accounts, even especially a Roth 401k where you can put substantial amounts of money into a retirement plan. But even just the Roth IRA, they may not have had access to it their entire working life, but even if they did, you can only put so much in there. So there's a lot of people that do have tax problems, again, maybe down the road, because taxes, they're a flow through. I mean, they flow down your 1040 the whole way. What I mean by that is it affects your Social Security, at least as of now, as the recording of this. I know they're talking about making your Social Security benefit tax-free. So we'll see if that happens. But as of right now, it's taxed. Your Medicare premiums are based off of taxable income. So there's a difference between income and taxable income. Income can just be money that comes in, but if it's in tax-efficient vehicles like Roths, then it's not taxable income. So a big difference there. So that does not flow down. It's still an IRA distribution, but it's just not taxed if you follow the right rules. So there's a lot of people with tax problems, and we try to help solve that.
Yeah, that's a big part of what they do at Black Oak Asset Management. So if you fall in that category, again, check out them online, retireperfect.com, easiest way to do that. What about someone who lost a spouse much earlier than they planned? I know this is incredibly tough. It is an emotional time, but also there's a huge financial element to this.
There is, and this topic's near and dear to my heart because that's basically my mom and dad. So my mom passed away in her late 50s, and obviously way before my dad retired. He ended up retiring at 62 from Southern Company. But it was, they had all these plans to do. So this is the fine line when I do financial plans with people, is live for today, but you also have to save for tomorrow. And we don't know when when that last day is going to be. So you do need to prepare for the long term, but sometimes that long term is not very long at all. So you do want to enjoy life while people are still here. Because again, we've had a death in our family. We've had a death in our community of a person who was just out of nowhere in their lower 50s. So you just never know. So we always try to balance that out. But when it comes to losing a spouse, we need to know what that looks like. What happens to a pension if they have one? What Social Security benefit are they going to keep? Because you keep the higher of the two when it comes to Social Security. So there's all these what ifs. What if they die really early? And the Social Security disability when it comes to your kids that are under the age of 18. So, man, a lot of moving parts with this stuff. And I've dealt with, unfortunately, I've dealt with many deaths from our clients. And again, I mentioned it on our YouTube channel, and I'm not sure if I've mentioned on the radio, but again, I had a client who was on his deathbed and he knew he was going to die. And he specifically said, I do not know how people do this on their own without an advisor. So that like, I'll never forget that comment ever, as long as I do this job, maybe as long as I live. But that's why we do what we do. So it has nothing to do with stock picking. And I mean, that's a big component of it. But if that's why you're hiring an advisor, you don't need an advisor. Just go pick them on your own if you want to. So there's a lot more to it. But losing a spouse, like you said, it's emotional time. We're there to walk people through that.
It's so important. You want to have that person on your side, that team on your side during the toughest times. And, that's the same with divorce too. I know it can really throw your financial situation into upheaval. So this is, again, a situation where you want to have someone that can kind of help you navigate this because it's so hard to do on your own.
It is. I mean, a divorce is emotional, but it's a giant financial transaction usually. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of moving assets, if you will, when it comes to this. So we don't have one on the calendar right now, but we've done women's workshops where it's for people who lose a spouse or a divorcee, and they can still be married, but it's a women's only event where they can come and we talk about this stuff and they can be in a comfortable environment. But we will be having some of those come up soon. So we'll definitely, we'll put that out on the radio and let people know when we're going to have those workshops. But they've been very successful before, good feedback with that. But yeah, divorce is, it's a tough time. And I know all divorces are not created equal. There's differences where, it's a bad situation. I don't think it's ever a great situation, but there are better situations in a divorce sometimes when it's amicable on both sides. They agree. Doesn't happen often, but it does happen. But we're there to help people through that divorce situation as well.
All right, last problem that I know you help people solve is health related too. And it kind of along the same lines of losing a spouse. These things happen unexpectedly, right? And if you have someone that struggled with a health problem or is now facing a health issue that's affecting their financial planning, how do you help there?
Yeah, it's obviously as clients age, as we get older, as modern medicine keeps us older longer, we're going to have more health care bills usually. So I see that with my grandmother now, who's in a facility and she's doing great, 97 years old and doing awesome. But that comes at a cost. I mean, she has a great living arrangement, 3 meals a day, but that comes at a cost. And she saved really well. They didn't have hardly any debt, her and my grandfather. So she's in a great situation. Some people don't have that situation where they're in a good place, where they're comfortable, they're with their spouse maybe. But the finances sometimes are a big part of that. So we want to discuss and talk about that, what that looks like. People who have a direct relationship with a parent who is going through this, it's an easy conversation to have because they see it day in and day out. It's a little bit harder for people who don't have a firsthand experience with it, but it's got to be discussed and talked about on costs and how to pay for these things.
All right. Again, you can see there's a lot of problems that people face in life, right? We don't know what's going to happen, but that's why we plan. That's why you put a plan together, and you can do that right now by going to retireperfect.com to get in touch with Black Oak Asset Management. Ryan and the team there will help you sit down and prepare for, look, a lot of these things that may or may not happen in your life, but you can prepare for them now to put yourself in a position where at least you have a little bit of peace of mind potentially, and you maybe not as much worry and anxiety over what could happen when you know that you've started planning for that. So again, retireperfect.com, best place to start. And while you're there, at retireperfect.com. Make sure you download or get the access to that retirement toolkit. Also the book, Diffuse the Retirement Threats. It goes into many more of these issues and problems that face retirees today. So again, retireperfect.com. Ron, we got to get out of here on that note. I appreciate your time this week. A lot to go through. I know it's a busy time in the market, so we'll probably talk about that again in the future. But in the meantime, enjoy your week, and we'll talk to you soon.
You do as well.
Information provided is for informational purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment,